Hello and welcome to the Week 4 weekly roundup of the Disruptive Innovation Festival. My name is Colin and I am the content manager for the DIF. I'm joined today by Joe, who's the digital architect, and by Jules, who is the project lead of the DIF. And we want to talk through some of the sessions that we really enjoyed this week and some of the sessions that you can catch up on online. The first one we're going to go to, I think Jules, you're going to tell us about valuing natural capital.
Yeah, we've had a few sessions on this throughout the festival and two this week, and it was talking about environmental profit and loss, accounting, talking about the number crunching of this, and it was interesting to have that debate opened up around whether this potentially provides a competitive advantage for organisations who get ahead of the curve and start actually putting measures in place for accounting for these areas within their profit and loss accounting systems. So it was a lively debate and really nice to see it pushed by the participants through the online questioning. I really enjoyed it and I learned quite a lot from the session, so I'd really recommend it.
That's a key part of the circular economy, isn't it? The prices should reflect true costs. And one of the things that Joss, who chaired the session, thinks is that it's quite likely governments might move into legislating along these lines. So if companies have started to make that move already, then perhaps they're ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Joe, you wanted to talk about 3D printing?
So we had a really good session earlier this week from John Ortiz from HP, Hewlett Packard, who have developed or are releasing their first 3D printer. So I think this is one of the first forays into the wildly hyped and very innovative 3D printing space from what you might call a traditional printer manufacturer. So we often think of 3D printing as this holy grail of you having one on your desk at home and you can print out anything. HP have obviously been making printers that people have on their desks at home for years. So maybe they'd be the people to push it into homes.
Yeah, and we should say at this point that at the Disruptive Innovation Festival, it's not just videos and webinars we run. We actually run an article series as well. And one article series we've run that's been successful is called the Head-to-Head. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. So these are articles where two authors from different backgrounds will take a contentious statement and give their perspective on it. So these have been some great sessions. Two went live this week. So we had the article on ownership is dead, and then consumers are the solution. So took two of these contentious points, and the feedback and the further discussion both on Twitter and then in the DIF Cafe has been really vibrant. So people should probably go and check those out online, and still time to get involved in the discussion as well.
Cool. One session I really enjoyed running this week was run by the people behind Ask Nature, which is a Biomimicry Institute's website, a repository really of a real wealth of information curated by biologists with an eye on designers and engineers. A place where you can go and you can ask the question, how does nature overcome some sort of problem? For example, how does nature breathe underwater? And you'd see some of the strategies that nature adopts. That's probably quite an obvious one, actually. But there's all sorts of strategies people can adopt in their designs. And for me, I think that was one of our most successful sessions of this week.
I think it was a massively interactive session as well. That was one of the strongest sessions in terms of how interactive it was. I know people were online on Ask Nature using that system live during the webinar, which was good to see.
Yeah.
It fed in really nicely as well to the back-to-back headline sessions. Obviously we had Janine Benyus and Michael Paulin kind of starting that off with a biomimicry focused session, and I've always enjoyed listening to Janine speak, and it was a great overview of her kind of inspiring work as to how we can take insights from living systems. But nice to hear that distinction between a product innovation from a biomimetic perspective, i.e., the Kingfisher trains, how they're designed for aerodynamic speed, but they also it was looking more at the systems perspective and how, in biology, organisms symbiotic and how they support one another, how they collaborate, how they compete, and how we can take insights from those relationships and the broader ecosystems and feed that into the systems within our economy, and actually making those links very apparent. And she was asked directly about that in the session, which I really enjoyed hearing her answers to, and I'd really recommend people go and listen to that session.
And of course that was a double bill, with 2 double bill headline acts this week, just a couple of days ago. And Janine shared the stage, didn't she, with Michael Pollan, the architect, whose his designs are inspired by nature. And you liked what he had to say on costs and savings.
Well, something I found interesting about both the sessions and the interplay between Janine and Michael was that it shifted from seeing this as a kind of resource issue. So how can we use less resources, which with a website name which is about natural systems and the natural world, you might think it would be about that, but actually this is real design. These are real design principles for products and systems, and not looking at natural systems in terms of, okay, well, what can we extract from them, and how can we make them more productive, but actually more of a learning process, which is fascinating and a point that's missed, but came across really strongly in that session.
And the second double bill was David Rowan, wasn't he, the UK editor of Wired, and Rachel Botsman, who's, I guess, the big name behind collaborative consumption. What did you take from that, Jules?
Well, it was great to see for the first time that I've witnessed a real debate around some of the concerns that are coming up about this very strong growing movement. You know, they started to talk about, from a regulation perspective, how organisations that work within the sharing economy space are competing, how they're pushing each other out of the market using different tactics in that respect. And I really enjoyed hearing from 2 of the people who are great advocates for this movement, actually highlighting some of the concerns that are coming up as it really moves to scale.
So one of those that was mentioned was around the role of venture capitalism. So I think there was something that David said, that the valuations of these companies are too high for us to see this as some warm and fluffy movement. So we think of Airbnb and Lyft and the fist bump when you get in a car with a Lyft driver, but these are serious companies, serious money behind them. What I got from him was that when you get to those sorts of levels, these multi-billion-dollar valuations, the questions around who's controlling these pockets of data, who's protecting the people involved in these companies, those questions are, rightly so, more hotly debated.
Yeah, that was a really interesting point on the regulation. No one really manages these movements, because I guess you'd say they've kind of grown organically in some ways, but actually it's big firms who are backing some of the biggest names in the collaborative consumption movement.
And trust was brought up as well in this whole using as trust as a commodity, and we build up these trust-based identities online, and those can actually be traded in themselves. And that it was really opening up some interesting questions about this, and highlighting some of the gaps with regulation as well, which was great to see.
Now, this double bill that we had on Thursday night, or no, it was Wednesday night. It finished, or rather I should say, it was recorded at the Cisco studios in London, and it finished with Ellen MacArthur speaking about the success of the DIF. Let's hear a few words from her right now.
That's what the DIF is all about. It's these ideas, this innovation, this different thinking, trying to bring it all together, put it in the mix, provide a platform, not just for people to take in, as we have all done in the last 2 hours learning, but also to put in those first ideas, to put on a platform, to put into the DIF, to create the dialogue. The DIF is self-directing. You can go where you like. It's run like a festival, and we really wanted to create that feeling that anyone could dip in and see what they were interested and experience things for the first time, as well as have that platform.
So today is the end of all the live events that we've got for DIF 2014, but what we do have for the next 30 days until December 14th is an opportunity for you to catch up on the real must-see events of the Disruptive Innovation Festival. They'll be online for just 30 days, so you really have to get there and watch them before these events expire. But if you miss those, or even if you catch them all and it whets your appetite, hopefully it's whetting your appetite for DIF 2015, because we're already thinking about that, how we can plan it to make it even bigger and better than 2014. So we'll see you online. Please register for DIF 2015 by going to the thinkdiff.co website. So thank you very much, and we'll see you online soon.